What is going on, you guys? This is Erica's for the win, and this is going to be my review for Chasm. In case you guys don't know, if you'd never heard of this game before, this is a 2D Metroidvania that has some RPG elements. From the Metroid-inspired map design to the double jump, to the Castlevania-inspired whips and enemies, Chasm gives you plenty to scratch that nostalgic itch. Although it comes up a bit short in item and weapon purpose, I enjoyed my 10-hour playthrough. Chasm is basically a story about a young knight who is called upon to investigate the mines of Carthus. People have gone missing, and it is up to you to find them and uncover what happened in the mines. Along the way, you encounter various enemies such as gargoyles, demons, warriors, and wizards. And as you defeat enough of them, they are unlocked in your bestiary, which is basically a log that has their descriptions and locations. I really like this aspect of the game because it gave me more incentive and purpose to seek these enemies out and encounter them. There is also a variety of weapons such as swords, axes, whips, and daggers. I found many just by playing the game, but there is a blacksmith you can rescue and they craft you more weapons and armor. There's also some villagers that you rescue who can make healing items such as potions and food, and also somebody who makes magic spells in case you want that magic playthrough. Throughout my whole time playing, I only really used the villagers that made me healing items. As far as magic spells and using the blacksmith, I didn't really bother with either until the very end, and that was only out of curiosity. There really isn't much incentive to use magic because most enemies are easily taken down at close range, and there isn't much reason to craft weapons either because there's plenty of weapon drops in the game, so I always had good weapons that did good damage. On top of that, weapons and armor aren't upgradable, and I felt this hurt the game a bit in terms of its attempted RPG elements. Being able to upgrade weapons and armor would have been nice. The whips looked so cool, but they were too weak in comparison, so I just stuck with the strongest swords all the way through. I would have loved to upgrade those whips. I would have really got my Castlevania on in this game, if you know what I mean. Another criticism I have is that you can't see the armor you have equipped. You can find an awesome looking gladiator helmet and equip it, but you won't ever see it on your character, and I felt this was a big miss. Unfortunately, there's just no fashion souls to be seen here, you guys. In terms of map design, Chasm is procedurally generated, so your map may look a bit different than someone else's. I have seen a few videos on YouTube of people playing, so I could compare the maps, and everyone essentially has the same map, just some rooms are placed differently. For example, a room that has an item located in it may be at the bottom right of the path for me, but on the top left for someone else. But they are still pretty much in the same vicinity. And enemies and bosses are pretty much the same, with the same patterns and mechanics. I came across a couple reviews where the reviewer complained about this, where they felt the generated maps kind of took away from the proper map design that could have been, and felt these areas in general could have been better. I personally had no issue with the design. I played through and felt all the worlds connected just fine. There was a lot to explore and backtrack to, and I had fun doing that. I also liked the flow of the areas and how fast I could get through early areas in order to backtrack. It felt so good to be more leveled up and go back and just destroy the enemies that were giving me trouble before. My only real complaint when it comes to the maps is that some areas were optional in terms of backtracking. For instance, this underwater area I saw early on and was excited to backtrack to only came after I beat the whole game, and it wasn't necessary during the main story. So that was a bit of a letdown. It didn't really scratch that Metroid itch as far as, finding a door you can't access and then you come back later. It had that in this game, but not enough, I think, to where it would have made me, love the game even more. As for the gameplay, most of it felt very fluid and polished. My only gripe was jumping back and forth on walls. It felt a little bit inconsistent in certain areas. The Keep, for example, was a level that came later in the game, and there was this particular area in the Keep where it was just so inconsistent. I was trying to use the walls to jump back and forth, and I was executing it exactly the same as I did everywhere else, and for some reason it just didn't work at times. This one area was literally the hardest part in the game just because it just was not working, and it almost felt broken. It got to the point where I was feeling a little frustrated, and although I was able to get through it, it definitely felt like something was off in this area. And I don't know if they're gonna patch it. I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it was in my head. Who knows? All I know is that this was really the most difficult part. When it comes to the platforming in this game and using your new abilities such as the wall jump and double jump and all of that, I felt like precise movement was really needed when it came to the platforming, and I appreciated that because it does add to the difficulty. Chasm overall wasn't really a hard game. The enemies and bosses, with the exception of one, weren't very difficult to get by. What I really appreciated about them though was their variety. There were so many different enemies with different patterns, and the bosses were very different from each other as well. As for the music, it was decent in Chasm. Some areas in particular had music that got in my head and stayed there all day. Even as I was typing this review up, I had the music in my head. The boss music, unfortunately, wasn't varied much, but overall I thought Chasm had some good tunes to play by. And the graphics, you can see as you're watching this video, it's got that old school Metroidvania kind of style, and I liked it. The only complaint about the graphics, and I think we can kind of include this with graphics, is the font. When you're reading stuff, especially at the beginning, it's not very clear. It's a little too pixelated. I think they could have polished that a little bit more. But other than that, I thought the game looked great and sounded great as well. I've had some people tweet me and also ask me on YouTube wondering if Chasm is worth it. And I'll keep it real, I think $15 would have been the sweet spot for this game, but instead it's $20. The average time to beat is about 8 hours, so some people may consider that very short. I spent a couple more hours, exploring and chasing trophies, which I should mention are fun to go for. I'm not really a trophy hunter, but there were a few in this game that I wanted to go back and collect. And that says something. So if you're into trophies, you like, hunting them and 100%ing games and, getting that platinum, this is a pretty easy platinum to get. But yes, 8 hours on average to complete the game, and it is going for $20. So it kind of depends on what you feel is worth $20. As I am recording this review, it is the last day to get 10% off. I pre-ordered the game, so I got it 20% off with PS Plus. I think it was about $17, which I thought was fair. I thought it was worth it. I've been looking forward to this game ever since PSX 2015, where I learned about the game, I got to meet the devs, and I thought to myself, this is a Metroidvania I could really get behind, and I was excited for it. So I feel like I got my money's worth, and I didn't feel disappointed or anything like that. I mean, waiting 3 years for a video game, you would think it'd be easy to be disappointed, but honestly I wasn't. I had a good time with Chasm. I just really feel like $15 would have been the sweet spot. But it just all comes down to you. I'm sure if you wait and you're kind of hesitant, you don't want to buy it yet, this will probably go down in price. I could imagine that happening pretty soon, especially on Steam. So I'd say wait for it if you're a little hesitant. But if you're a Metroidvania fan, you're an old school games fan, you've been playing these kinds of games forever, and you just love them, I highly recommend it. I think it will scratch that itch, and you'll have a good time. So that's it, you guys. That's my review for Chasm. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know in the comment section if you are intending to play this game or you have played it. What do you think about it? Let me know. Again, thank you guys, and I will catch you in my next video. Peace.